All right. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy early Thanksgiving to everyone. Sorry, I'm a little bit late here, and I really hate being late. Can you guys see me and hear me okay? Just go ahead and let me know. And so we were doing a little bit of Q&A live stream tonight. And again, if any of you guys could just let me know if you can see me and hear me all right. That way it's not annoying to you guys, and I can make some adjustments if I need to. Okay, so we can go ahead and get it started. First of all, if you guys have, any questions, this is the time for those that are just jumping. Every Wednesday night, usually around 5 or 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, I like to do a little Q&A session. It's kind of like a state of the Second Amendment. Any questions you guys have, it could be about guns, politics, military-related stuff, anything like that. What's going on?
I just need a little USB plug.
No worries. Okay. Excuse me 1 minute, guys.
Like the actual cube that plugs into the wall.
You just grab it from behind the bed.
Okay.
Yeah. Beyond that, happy early Thanksgiving, everybody who is just joining us. Let's see. We get the first question. What do I think about the Aimpoint patrol rifle optic? So I've had one for about a year now, and I love it. If you guys saw the 2020 loadout video, that was the optic on my standard AR-15, just kind of general purpose carbine. It does everything you want an Aimpoint to do. The patrol rifle optic, it comes with a standard Aimpoint mount, which I went ahead and changed it. But it's a perfectly good. It's a little bit bigger in terms of size. That's all. The patrol rifle optic is not gonna have like night vision settings on it, super low intensity. So if you're using nods or anything, but Aimpoint wanted to market that product towards police departments that wanted a red dot for every patrol rifle in their department, but didn't have this huge, crazy budget to work with. And they also did it for civilians trying to get, I guess, by way of Aimpoint, the most entry level they could kind of do. So it's kind of everything you need, nothing you don't. But I like it, and it's actually my preferred #1 recommended red dot. Usually go for like 370-ish, but either way, I think for getting a quality, solid Aimpoint product for that price, everything you need, nothing you don't. I don't think a lot of guys are running night vision, so it's awesome. So highly recommend it. It's my top choice if you're looking for a red dot. You don't know anything about red dots. You just want something quality with a high battery life. Aimpoint patrol rifle optic is my #1. Let's see. Am I still secure about the Second Amendment? I am generally. We'll see. We still have the Georgia runoff and everything else to worry about. Like I've said in the past, and like I'll say again, even if everything went whatever way you wanted it to go, pro Second Amendment, every branch of government, the president, everybody, you still need to care and be cognizant of what's going on. But at the end of the day, I'm still feeling pretty good about it. There's even if the Senate is kind of at a dead even split where it would come down to the vice president, in this case, next year, Kamala Harris splitting the tie, you're going to have the Democrat senators from pro-gun states that could not go home and expect to have a job by voting yes for an assault weapons bill. So still a lot of hope there, still a lot of stuff. So yeah, I'm not too or as worried about it. Do I have any night vision optics or thermals? No. Thermals are going to be super expensive. In terms of thermals, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars potentially. We had a dude that busted some PSQ-20 alphas, which is like a night vision and thermal. Just goes on your helmet, optic or night vision nods, but it's thermal as well. And the statement of charges on that was obscene. It was like $38,000, something crazy. Night vision is more accessible to most people. Still haven't checked that box yet. But I'd like to at least get night vision. But there's so much more stuff vying for our dollars right now. I would tell people, if you don't have an AR-15, got to handle it. If the AR-15 doesn't have a red dot, got to handle it. If it doesn't have a white light or backup iron sights, got to handle that. There's so many other things in the way before I'd look at getting night vision, I guess. What about Vortex? So I do have a couple Vortex options. One's on a 22 Smith & Wesson M&P 1522. It's the Vortex Strike Fire 2. That's rated to be on an AR-15, and it'll do that job. But my preference is Aimpoint. If you're going to get a Vortex, it'd be the Crossfire 2. I have one of those, and that's actually on Miss Texas's AR. Been pretty impressed with that. Pretty nice battery life, retain zero, no drama. So if you're looking for the best bang for your buck in terms of a Vortex red dot, that Vortex Crossfire 2 would be a way to go. I've been pretty impressed with that thing. If it's for a fighting rifle or some no shit purposes, I would at least, get that Aimpoint patrol rifle optic, and then you just have no doubts ever that you're going to be good to go. What do I think about the social media censorship and what should be done about it? So real quick before I answer that and keep going, we do have a meeting at work tonight. So this is only going to last probably about an hour or less from now is what I'm going to have to call it, because we're going to keep working on Thanksgiving dinner preparations. And then also I got to head back to work tonight. So this Q&A won't be as long as others have in the past. So I got a little bit sick. It's not the Ronas. Everybody calm down. Good to go. What do I think about social media censorship? What should be done about it? So we're kind of in this weird time and space where I think you can make an argument that, like YouTube, if you want to find videos, there's YouTube. Gun specific, there's stuff like Full 30. You can always buy your own website and upload your own content. But YouTube is like the massive superhighway of video sharing and kind of freedom of expression and how-to videos and anything. That's like the superhighway of the world, at least the United States and a lot of the rest of the world use YouTube. Facebook is the same way. Back in my day, we had MySpace. Facebook has kind of become the thing. There's definitely other platforms that are trying to start or have tried to start and failed. But really, if you want, there's really nothing else like a Facebook account. There's really nothing else like a YouTube channel and being able to live stream like right now or upload videos. So there's an argument that could be made that things like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, the social media sites, like the main super ones, almost could be kind of moving into that public utility kind of parameters of the law, where it's a private company and they're not the government, so they don't have to respect anybody's First Amendment anything. It's a private company. You are putting your content on their service. You are agreeing to, the terms that they've set forth of their community guidelines and their privacy and data policies, which most of them are awful. And if they don't like it, or for whatever reason they change their mind, they don't want it, they're a private company, they could take it down. But it's kind of almost, I feel like there's an argument that could be made that, if you get deplatformed from Google and YouTube and Twitter, maybe they keep eating each other up, and it's one giant or several giant companies that own basically all of the major social media, and they all decide to either outright deplatform you or shadow ban you, so you're still there. But when someone types it in, you're going to be like on the 15th page of results, so no one's ever going to see you. There's a lot of weird stuff with that could kind of be its own almanac in a way. But it's that weird push and pull of, I believe private companies should be able to regulate what happens or what policies they want. If YouTube should not have to put up with, white supremacists or just awful stuff on their platform. But at the same time, it's kind of one of those weird middle grounds, you know what I'm saying? So I don't like to see it. I do think it's concerning that YouTube, Google, same thing, Facebook, Twitter, all this stuff, it's all from West Coast, Silicon Valley, very left liberal leanings there. And I don't mean classic liberalism. I mean modern American politics, liberal, left leaning. So what does that mean for those of us trying to push, I guess, things like guns or more conservative minded thought and their ability to shut it down, censorship? Generally disagree with it, but that's kind of its own topic there. Let's see. Hey, ad is messing with us. Are we illegal? My AR-15 has extendable buttstock. Is that banned? Confusing. What's ADD or ad? And I left my glasses downstairs, so let me pump that up a little bit. Just need clarification. Ron Yeater on that. Ad is messing with us. I'm not sure what that means. Oh, ATF. So yeah, ATF, I saw this morning or last night that it seems to be a pretty weird situation, but then again, with the ATF, when it comes to braces, binary trigger, stuff like that, it always is kind of a weird situation. The thing is, SB Tactical, not the only show in town, but arguably, without a doubt, the most successful pistol brace company that has put out and still has some of the best pistol brace designs on the market. And SB Tactical, in order to sell you the SB A3 brace or the SB A4 or any number of any of the braces that they have actually finally put to market, enough for 6 Hour, Ruger, Springfield Armory, Daniels Defense, you name it, these big name companies for the past 2 years now have been offering pistols, AR pistols, there's AK pistols and stuff that are coming with, the braces, because SB Tactical said, hey, this is what the product's intended for. This is what it looks like. We're going to submit you the samples you want. You guys check it out. And they got the approval that it was not a stock, and it's been that way for years now. But that's all riding on the ATF, that we don't wake up tomorrow and the ATF is like, surprise, we don't like braces anymore. So we'll have to see where this goes. The ultimate long-term solution, if you have an AR pistol and you just want to keep it and enjoy it and shoot it and drive around with it, go to a public range and use it and not have to worry about anything at all, the ultimate solution would be to make it an SBR, get the tax stamp and all that, which is kind of what they want. Because the next year or two or less, it's kind of hard to tell the future of AR pistol braces and what's going to happen with that. So I hope we're talking about a company that has put a lot of money into research and development. It's for a good cause, wounded warriors, people with physical disabilities and issues trying to fire an AR pistol one-handed as per the law determines what a pistol is, one of the parameters. And ATF blessed off on it and agreed that it was fine. It's been that way for years. Now we have millions of units out there. I've even heard some conspiracies like, oh, well, that was kind of the point. to say it was okay enough that all the big name brands are offering guns with the braces. Millions of people have the braces. And then if they turn around and try to ban them, it can go before the court that would tie into Heller versus DC, or it could be tied into it. There's an argument there that you can't ban something that's in common use, the very kind of things that exactly the ATF said was cool for years. So some are saying, oh, this was kind of a long game strategy to cause, sue for redress and then absolutely just blow it wide open. I don't know if I agree with that, because the people at the ATF that I think are pushing this are not gun-friendly people. Let's put it that way. So let's see. Do you like the AR-10? Yes, I do. I think for nostalgia reasons, a really good 308 battle rifle is going to be an FN FAL. A little bit behind the times in some ways, not as much modularity, but definitely kind of a really cool thing to have. But if you are trying to do some serious long-range precision out of a semi-automatic 308 or 6.5 Creedmoor these days, AR-10 is absolutely the way I would go. I would just do it that way. Yeah, AR-10, big fan. We had the M110 SAS, the Knights Armament product. Basically, they're military adopted SR-25 per the requirements that the Army wanted. Big fan of that. Big fan of a quality, well-made, well-built civilian AR-10. Pretty outstanding. If you can do an inch, that's about, if you can hold an MOA, if it's an MOA gun, or sometimes better, that's about what you can get out of a semi-auto. And the AR-10 is going to do that all day, every day, provided you built it with quality components. So big fan of the AR-10. Yeah, especially in 6.5 Creedmoor. That's a really sick gas gun. Yeah, let's see. Braces make firearms safer. Why mess with it? It's also discrimination on the disabled. Definitely an argument for that. The American Disabled Association did get involved when the ATF was trying to say that, shouldering a brace constitutes all of a sudden remanufacturing the gun into an unlawful SBR, and that's when the ATF backed down. So there is a legal component where there's good standing to maintain braces, but there's also, Title IX with federal law, discrimination against, people who are using the product for its intent, even those people, and trying to kind of pull the rug out from under them. So in the short term, I don't think braces are on the most stable ground, but in the long term, at least if the case is argued correctly and it's brought to the Supreme Court, I see a lot of potential for that to be a complete disaster for those who want braces to go away. And we'll just have to see how it kind of pans out. Can't afford it, will not comply. Honestly, where I live, you see a lot of people rolling around with stocks on guns that have less than 16-inch barrels. At this point, it's almost already just kind of, at least where I live, I see a lot of people in the range, a lot of stuff. And it's not that they don't know what they're doing, or, they accidentally stumbled into buying this cool lower and then buying this cool upper, and they didn't even realize that is real too. There's a lot of people who, especially on the AR-15 with how modular it is, they'll buy a Aero Precision Complete, AR lower with a stock on it, and then they'll go, Palmetto State or somewhere online and buy a complete 10.5-inch upper or something, not even realizing that is an issue technically. But, I think there's a lot of jurisdictions or places where, I don't want to say nobody cares, but man, I've seen a lot of people that I'm like, yeah, out of everything I've seen, I don't know how many of those are registered SBRs, but then again, like, I'm just an armorer, repairing the machine guns, working on stuff. So kind of is what it is, but we'll see where that goes. Okay. Let's see. I'm not an advocate for frequent changes in laws and constitutions, but laws and institutions must go hand in hand with the progress of the human mind. It's from Thomas Jefferson. Kind of interesting you mentioned that. It sort of reminds me of what Madison was saying in the Federalist Papers. It'd be Federalist 50. Kind of talking about how there, if there was, if men were angels, we wouldn't need to have government in the first place. But there does need to be something. But if there's going to be something, it needs to be bound or set up with some kind of way where it's protecting the people's rights and working to allow free enterprise, as opposed to constraining and cramping down on it. So, I mean, I've said in the past, you guys know, or those of you who have heard my almanacs or been with the channel for a while, but Thomas Jefferson is my personal favorite founding father. So yeah, I think that's awesome. Kind of ties into the Anti-Federalist Papers, which I would, recommend that as well. What do I think about the 6.5 Grendel and the 6.8 SPC? Again, I'm kind of, you could come out with this caliber that does everything. It's awesome. It's, it's got the best ballistics of any cartridge ever made. And it even cooks you dinner after you get home from the range. Like, it's the best thing ever. But dude, if it's like 70 cents a round under normal market pricing, there's only like 2 manufacturers making barrels or ammo for it. The parts are really proprietary and strange, or expensive. I'm not interested. The 6.5 Grendel was an attempt to make something, I believe, for USASOC or SOCOM. They're a little bit more potent than the 5.56. Try to be in that 6 mil range. But they found out that due to the bell shape of it, they could just never really get it reliable in full auto function, of just in terms of feeding the magazine, no matter what designs they were working with. Just the cartridge shape was not conducive to that. Doesn't really have a lot of play on the civilian world, but that's one thing that there are. I do see some people bringing in 6.5 Grendel builds. The outer rim of the bolt itself has to be machined out so much that it's not paper thin, but it's a pretty thin rim around the 6.5 Grendel AR bolt, if you've ever seen one. So I'm not as enthused about it. 6.8 SPC, actually more of a fan of that, but again, it still falls into the same category of, if it's super hard to find under normal, I mean, everything's hard to find, everything's expensive right now, but under normal market conditions, is it easy to find? When I do find it, how expensive is it? I'd like to buy 1,000 rounds a month, which is what I used to be doing for 5.56, and just go train the whole month with that. And I could do that for $280 to $320 shipped for 1,000 rounds of 5.56 under normal market pricing. 6.8, 6.5, it could be the coolest thing ever, but if it's hard to find and under normal market pricing, I'm dealing with, this is going to be $600 to try to buy 800 rounds of it. And be like, dude, I'm not interested in picking it up. So definitely, if you are a reloader or you make your own reloads at home, where you can buy the components, you're going to save the spent brass, and you're really concerned about accuracy, and you're not really concerned about this high volume of training and shooting throughout the month, and you're reloading so you can better control the accuracy in the process, and you're also saving money, I'd say go for it if you really like it. There's a kind of a cadre of 224 Valkyrie guys at work that do that, but at the end of the day, I'm not really about it. Happy Thanksgiving, FCOD, and everybody else here. Do I foresee a second Revolutionary War? Not really. I really don't. I mean, if you give it, 1,000 years, could it happen? The chances are probably, but within our short-term, near-term stuff, no, I don't see that happening. And there's a lot of reasons for why I feel that way, but no, I don't I don't see that happening, at least. Again, if you gave us a timeline of like 1,000 years, or, you know, you could extend that to the end of planet Earth as we know it millions of years from now. Like, obviously, everything, there's going to be something at some point, but in the near short term, 10 to 20 years, I don't think so. Let's see. This is a good question. So, coming from Patriots, so why does the 5.56 have a reputation as being a wimpy round for some people? You seem to love it. So, here's the thing: 5.56. It started as 2.23. Well, it started as AR-10, and the Department of Defense is like, "Hey, this is cool. Let's scale it down." So Stoner and Sullivan worked to scale it down to an AR-15 size with the 223 Remington, working with Remington to come out with it. The bottom line on this cartridge, 5.56, the secret sauce of the cartridge is velocity. So M16 eventually became the M16A1 and everything we know. That's a 20-inch barrel. Moving into the original M249 SAW, squad automatic weapon, pretty long barrels. I think they're 20 or 22 inches, the original ones. 5.56, the secret sauce on that thing is velocity. And fast forward to the global war on terror, when the M4 kind of came out of nowhere as eventually becoming the standard issue main rifle of the U.S. Army. Still used by the Marines, widespread as well. Not their standard issue, but pretty widely issued. The M4 was never supposed to do that. It was kind of a replacement conceptually for an M1 carbine, where these guys are not necessarily going to be on the front lines, but we want them to have something more capable than just a pistol. M4 carbine was meant to kind of fill those roles. The Gothic Serpent dudes, the original Delta guys, they were picking up the Colt 703s, the M16A2 carbine, which later became the M4. But the M4 carbine was kind of a side gig. It was not meant to be the standard issue thing. So when eventually, between Colt and the U.S. government and then the Army kind of shifting directions and all of that kind of brewed together, and once we're moving in the GWAT, the Army's like, surprise, we're going to move into the M4 carbine. That's going to be the standard for everyone. That was kind of interesting because the M4 has a 14.5-inch barrel. And from the original 20 inches the cartridge was designed for, the weapon system was designed for, cranking it down to 14.5 inches, which you can still get decent velocities out of 193 standard 55 grain, but we were also still using the green tip at that time. Green tip was a threat-based cartridge that was made for that bunk-ass Soviet armor, that it was made for a specific threat at a specific time. And hey, we need to puncture the helmets and this weird pancake Soviet body armor stuff back in the Cold War in the 70s and 80s. We want to puncture this stuff at 300 meters. And green tip was kind of the answer to that. It was a threat-based cartridge. But again, it was being used out of M16A1s and M16A2s. You got a 20-inch barrel. Green tip out of a 20-inch barrel is no joke. That is no joke. You do not want to be on the front of that at all. But when we go the GWAT, we're using the M4. Everyone has one now. We're using the green tip, the old Soviet threat-based created cartridge, and we're doing it out of these 14.5-inch barrels. You don't have the velocity you need for that cartridge. You're shooting it out of a barrel that's too short. You've got a round that's inherently not as accurate. It's heavier, doesn't have the crazy tumbling effects that we would have seen out of a 20-inch M16. So that's where the bad rap kind of shows up on the 5.56. Again, it's bean counters, ordnance department, all this stuff, making these decisions where they're not all coinciding or they're not all in sync. And in fact, adopting the M855 Alpha 1, the brown tip, as impressed as I am with that round, it wasn't designed for an M4. There's only so much time an M4 can deal with that before you start ripping up the feed ramps on the barrel, burning down barrels, start breaking shit on the gun. Uncle Sam was like, we don't care. We want a better cartridge out of the 5.56, the best we can do. And we know it's going to break and wear down our guns faster. we're willing to deal with that, whatever. So at the end of the day, I think that's where the bad rap on the 5.56 comes from. If you talk to dudes who spent time in Vietnam with the 20-inch M16, and especially when the A1 came out, they perfected it. Now they had not just chrome line chambers, they had chrome line barrels, they had the right ammo, they had cleaning kits for it, and everything was firing on all cylinders now. Get the 5.56 out of a 20-inch barrel, you're not going to find a lot of people complain about that. You're really not. So that's kind of all of that wrapped into one. See, I feel that most of the people who feel it's a wimpy round hasn't seen what it can actually do to a human. Okay, well, there you go. I mean, kind of borrowing from Clint Smith, but anyone that I've seen who's taken a round or two or several rounds from that cartridge out of the right load, the right barrel length, I would not want to take their place. Let's put it that way. Because, yeah, it's without getting graphic, it's not the kind of thing that you would want to be in front of, provided the right barrel length and the right ammunition. Also twist rate, but that depends on what type of projectile you're trying to stabilize. Let's see. Many bullets can do a lot more damage, even 22 long rifle. No, definitely there's going to be a definable difference between what happens with 5.56 versus what happens with 22. Definitely that is a night and day thing, my dude. Let's see. What do you think of Delta Force? They seem to be a less known rival of SEAL Team 6. Pretty top-notch dudes, those guys. So to get on Delta Force, a lot of them are senior NCOs. A lot of them started out in Ranger Bat and did a lot of Ranger Bat time, basically lived in Ranger Battalion or Ranger Regiment pretty much their whole Army career until they went for that or 18 series. The U.S. Army, the unit or CAG, Delta Force, as it's commonly known, those are some seriously experienced heavy hitter kind of guys that have deployments on top of deployments, combat action, lots of funding, lots of schools, lots of training, lots of real world experience. So by the time they even get to try out, and if they're selected to finally pass through everything and they're selected and they make it on the team, generally dealing with some guys that are probably the most squared away, most technically proficient, most dangerous people the U.S. Army has to offer. So it's, yeah, Delta Force, they don't like to make a big show out of what they do. Navy SEALs most popular for the Bin Laden raid and other things, but CAG does a lot of crazy stuff, but it's awesome. Let's see. Seems like SEAL teams get the limelight. My chips are with Delta, though. Yeah, I think it really depends on what the mission is. Probably not going to see Delta really picking up missions that involve, doing underwater demolitions or doing some kind of amphibious, from a submarine to the shore, sneaking in at night and doing crazy stuff. But yeah, it just depends on the mission. I mean, I've worked with Team 1 and Team 3 guys my last deployment. Pretty solid guys. Just a whole different way of getting things done. Let's see, do you think the U.S. military should switch back to a 20-inch barrel? No. If we were interested in extending the barrel, I'd probably say 16 inches, mid-length system. And that's probably the longest I'd want to go. Let's see. Sorry, I wasn't clear about Second Revolution meant upcoming confiscation will not comply. Yeah, welcome to the live video chat. Yeah, so the thing is, if we're talking gun confiscation, there's a multitude of things that have to happen before you get there. And even if you somehow legally, politically get that green light or some place, jurisdiction, town, state wants to do it, you're also hinging on relying upon who's going to do that. That's going to be the sheriffs, the police, having to go in, National Guard, who mainly deals with natural disasters and things like that. So you'd have to get those people to even sign off to do it, even if they're told to do it. And probably the greatest recent example is what happened in Virginia, which I've got an almanac, actually 2 of them on, where we talked about what was happening and then the pro-freedom rally that happened back there in January, where, you know, the Virginia Sheriff's Association came out in uniform saying, we're not doing whatever crazy stuff you want to do. We are with the people and with the Second Amendment. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff. And then even if you politically and legally got the green light to do it, and then even if you had every single person from law enforcement to National Guard to whatever that somehow agreed to do it, basically now you're dealing with a nightmare. How are you going to accomplish that? So I'm not as worried about the confiscation piece, like some widespread, the whole city's getting taken down, we're going house to house. Like, I don't see the political and especially the legal side getting there, even in the most crazy places like California. When I left California back in 2014, in Los Angeles County alone, we had, I mean, I remember seeing it in the news. I remember reading up on it. They had a list of about 30,000 people who were known felons, or they legally bought a gun but then committed a felony or domestic violence or did something to, you know, basically negate their rights. But they still had the guns, even though legally they shouldn't have them anymore because they committed some kind of awful thing that discludes them from having guns anymore. That list about 30,000 people big. And LA sheriffs, the state of California was even like, look, we know they want the guns. And of course, they're like, yeah, we want to get the guns out of the hands of the criminals. We have their addresses. We know who they are, what crimes they've been convicted of. And we know the fact they have guns. But the list is so huge and there's so many people, we don't even have the manpower to deal with people who we know have guns and shouldn't have them. So that right there was, for me, kind of the writing on the wall of just like, logistically speaking, assuming everything else was totally green light and just hypothetically it was good to go and they were going to do it. Logistically, dude, there's hundreds of millions of guns in this country at this point. You don't even know who has what. There'd be no way to even effectively figure out who bought what guns at what time. It would probably take at least 150 years, honestly, for all of that paperwork just to figure out who has what. So, yeah, I think kind of beating that dead horse, the whole mass confiscation thing, I don't really buy into that, because working with the paperwork, working with, you know, who would have to make those decisions, assuming it even got passed, would they even do it? The personal friends that I've known for years and know and talk to who are law enforcement officers, you know, they're like, no. One of my best buddies from college, who was my roommate for years there, we still talk, everything. I'm not going to say his name, but he's Virginia state trooper. He was about ready to turn in his badge with everything that was going on at the beginning of this year. And even now he's like, yeah, if they ever told us to do it, there's a whole, like, half the police department the first day would just be no. So yeah, lots of faith there. Not as worried about it. Okay, let's see. We're going to be looking at about another half hour, and then I'm going to have to cut it short for those of you guys who just joined halfway through. We have a meeting tonight at work, getting ready for the Black Friday situation. So I got to go back to work tonight. Got to help Miss Texas kind of prep some Thanksgiving stuff for tomorrow. So we got about another half hour. I'm going to try to cruise through these questions, get a little faster on them. Let's see. I was shot in the leg with a .22 long rifle, hollow point. It was like a bad wasp sting, hurt worse the next day. Yeah, any kind of firearms related accident or issue, not a good thing. Thankfully, I've never been shot. I've been hit with birdshot from a distance. Used to work at a trap and skeet range, coming out of the house after loading clays. Somebody on skeet field 2 on the number 1 position firing, and you just get all this birdshot usually 9 or 8 shot coming at you from like 200 meters away. It's like, oh man, had some ricochets and shrapnel, but never physically been shot. But at least you made it out okay with that. But generally, obviously not a good thing when that happens. Let's see, do I use muzzle brakes? I heard they can be extremely effective at mitigating recoil, but make your gun and concussion really extreme. I personally do not. On my ARs, I got A2 bird cages, the standard flash hider issue combo. It's not a great muzzle brake. It's not a great flash hider. It's kind of a jack of both trades, and it doesn't do either really effectively, but I find it good enough. Definitely don't. I don't enjoy the compensators. Honestly, if it's 5.56 or even 8K 7.6239, I don't find the recoil as stunning to need something. I've shot dudes that have their guns that have like a 16-inch barrel mid-length. They've got a comp on there, and it's like, this is the flattest shooting gun you'll ever shoot, dude. I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, like, I really wasn't really having big issues to begin with. I understand if it's like a customer gun today. It was a 300 Win Mag. It was a Ruger M77 Hawkeye, and I'm glad that thing had a compensator on it. I went to our private base while I was alone to sight that thing in for him. Because nobody wants to be around that thing at all. But as the shooter, it's nice. So that makes sense. But on AR-15s and stuff, no, it's just not something I'm interested in. Definitely very concussive. Obviously, it's all going to be loud, but it just makes it exponentially louder. And the slight benefit that gives me is, to me, not worth it of having that thing on the gun all the time. Fun fact, if you go to different training places or try to do some carbine courses, some of them actually say either that thing needs to come off your gun or you just need to throw your suppressor on there and call it a day. But you are not going to be shooting a muzzle brake like on the line side by side with other students. We're not going to allow that in our course. So some places will actually say that for that reason. Let's see. 22 travels too damn fast to do a lot of damage unless it's a major part of the body. Yeah, biggest thing is shot placement. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of stuff that's happened with 22 rifles, 22 pistols. Shot placement. That's really it. Should do an almanac about each of the founders and talk about them. We'll see. I've kind of thought about doing something like that. Particularly the ones that don't get enough play, like George Mason, Patrick Henry, people that maybe they're famous for that one thing, but then like, hey, here's the rest of what he was doing that led him up to this moment. So instead of just Washington, Jefferson, Franklin, talk about dudes like Samuel Adams, all that, lesser known founding fathers who were also wildly important in the process. Do I want a Barrett 50 cal rifle? Not particularly. Really, it just comes down to it's a heavy weapon system. I don't really do long range shooting, and if I did, it's going to be like a 6.5 Creedmoor or a 300 Win Mag or something like that. The inception of the M82, the original Barrett from Ronnie Barrett, it was supposed to be the light 50, and the idea was not to be a sniper rifle, which it doesn't really do well in that role, but to be an anti-equipment. So if you see on the 70s or 80s potential Cold War battlefield, you see a Russian Jeep or a generator or a radar dish or equipment that you want to disable it, then you have a 50 cal rifle with an optic on top to disable that equipment. That's kind of the intended purpose. Our sniper section, we had 2 M107s. They were not the alpha ones, just regular M107s. And when you actually tried for accuracy, one of them was really shot out. It was only about 3 MOA. The other was just slightly under that if you were really trying. Not a precision instrument. The 50 BMG was not designed to be a precision round. There's certainly many other cartridges that have a better ballistic coefficient. It was meant to shoot aircraft out of the sky, do some long range beaten zone suppressive fire. In the case of the 50 cal or the Barrett M82 and the later 107 and the 107 Alpha 1, It was meant to be a lightweight 50 cal that you could carry for that purpose. In civilian life, again, if I was doing some serious 1,500 yard, 1,000 yard ranges, it's not going to be a 50 BMG and it's not going to be a semi-auto. So again, rounds are expensive too. So not really interested. We have one at work, customers will rent it and shoot it, and, everyone high fives. It's cool, but nah, not really. Let's see. What is Ready Gunner doing for Black Friday? We do have some sales, some of which we actually can't publish yet, but it's going to be some stuff on sale, discounted coffee, I believe, and selling just kind of what we have to sell. I'm actually, to be honest, I'm surprised we're even doing items for sale on Black Friday. The guns and ammo have been selling themselves at this point. But we've managed to kind of shuffle away a little side inventory in terms of stuff to do. So, yeah, pretty dicey right now. But, yeah, we'll see. Thank you, big fan. Stay safe. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks, Ron Uter. Appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving on my rifles. But one of the most valuable things on my M4, besides the optic, usually a CCO. See if my connection comes back. Okay, so just to recap, if you guys lost me for a second, do I put lasers on my rifles? No, just as a matter of cost, but yes, I'd like to. If I have my dream purchase, it would be a Maul, B.E. Myers Maul. That is going to be the best thing you will ever buy, at least right now in 2020. PEC 15 is cool, a little bit outdated, but still provides, if you know how to run it, still better than absolutely nothing. If any of you are thinking about putting a visible laser or IR laser or combo on your rifles, I would just buy quality. You're going to be tempted to try to buy some cheapo depot stuff. It's never going to hold zero. It's always going to break. Stuff's going to happen. I would go with the trustworthy. It is expensive, but I would at least get a Steiner D-bolt, something quality and reputable that's not just going to fall apart 2 weeks after you buy it. So I see a lot of people, instead of crying once, they buy twice. So what do I think of the 7mm Winchester short mag? Don't have any time on it. I've shot a couple guns for customers, sighting in some rifles for them. It sits in that cadre of common rifle cartridges on this side of the planet for hunting. Every guy is going to argue why they like this cartridge or that cartridge for deer or elk or whatever. So I don't really have a dog in that fight. I think it probably does a great job. Most of the hunters I encounter, they're not into ARs as much, or they just don't have a background in it. They just want something as flat shooting as possible. So I'm sure it does well in that purpose. What do I think about Ets Mags? Haven't really had any time on them. We just started carrying them or got our hands on them. From everything I see, they seem to be good to go. I'm always going to be sticking with the Magpul P Mags, and I don't think that's going to be changing anytime soon. Not that the ETS Mags are bad. I've heard nothing but good things about them. I don't have a personal experience with them yet. But honestly, I'm so happy with P Mags that I haven't been interested in looking anywhere else. I've just been using them forever, and no need to change. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So it's probably the latest hotness. It probably is good, but I've never seen the need to change from P Mags, so I don't. You guys are welcome for the stream. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys as well. Let's see, Oliverwood jumping in. What is the best state to own a gun in? I guess that's really hard to answer. It's hard to answer for two reasons. Reason number one, which is most important, is I've lived in a number of states, but I've not lived or even visited every single state. I don't know the particular laws and all the nuances and everything else of each state. And, if you look at a lawyer, for example, say, oh, I practice law in this state, they literally mean practice the law, because it takes time of working as a lawyer or a prosecutor or an attorney in a given state. It takes time to practice the law of that state, to really start to understand the statute, understand kind of the writing on the wall if you get a client that has these charges, whatever, or how certain charges or certain things are handled in different states. What are the prosecutorial attitudes towards it? How does this kind of charge end up shaken down? So, I don't have any of that knowledge for every single state. I'll say that Utah is a pretty good state. People know Nevada for Battlefield, Las Vegas, and full auto rentals. We have plenty of machine guns to rent as well. Utah, suppressors, SBRs, machine gun rentals. It's a very positive pro-gun attitude. This is a very gun-heavy state. The Mormon church and the Mormons out here, they are some pretty gun-heavy people. Let's put it that way. Law enforcement out here, a lot of them are hunters, or they don't do that, but they have a lot of ARs and guns themselves. It's a very pro-gun kind of place. So yeah, I always joke with Miss Texas, but every time we go to Texas, the gun laws just got worse compared to here. And actually they are, with their limitations on open and concealed carry. So introduce something for a little preview on a video that I'm working on. This is the Wasser 10. I know the lighting kind of sucks. This one you guys saw briefly in the 2020 loadout video. This one, there's going to be a video that I'm going to put out soon called The Fighting Rifle. And it's going to talk about the quality standard we're going to want, features on this kind of rifle we're going to want to have a solid, durable, reliable, useful rifle for home defense. If you're going to do a ton of carbine courses, if you need a gun that's like a ride or die gun, we're not talking about like a $400 AR-15 build. We're talking about, here's the quality standard we're going to need. Here's the items or things on the gun we're going to want. And this is what you need in a fighting rifle. Something that you can literally hand this to U.S. military and be like, here you go, standard issue rifle. And infantrymen like I was are just going to beat the hell out of this thing. It's going to get dropped, banged up, rusted, dragged through the gravel, and it's still just going to be a functional, sturdy, reliable rifle. So Wasser 10 finally got the Surefire sorted out. Aimpoint on top, Zukov stock in the back. But yeah, we'll be looking at that little preview. Probably got 10 more minutes here, so let's keep going. First time shot at machine gun was at Bud's Gun Shop in Tennessee. Yeah, machine guns are interesting because what the ATF determines as a machine gun is like anything that's going to fire more than 2 rounds or more with one trigger pull, essentially is what that boils down to. So you could have like an M16A2 with a burst capability on it. So it's firing 1, 2, or 3 rounds at a time. You don't really know. But when you have something like that, that is legally defined as a machine gun now from nomenclature, design features, and a military standpoint, that is absolutely not a machine gun. So I guess in my mind, that would legally, they're all machine guns if they can do that. But is it a full auto of some kind? Maybe it's a full auto Uzi or something. Is it a select fire rifle like an M4 or an M16A2? Or is it actually like a machine gun like we have, MG42, 240 Bravo, 249 squad automatic weapon, where that thing is designed to be a machine gun, full auto only, send it. But it is, either way you go, it's going to be an awesome experience. Definitely going to be a little expensive. Takes, it doesn't take a lot of time at all to start really accumulating round count and cost, but pretty nice. Let's see. Heard good things about Security 9. Thinking for my daughter. Any opinion? The centerfire semi-automatic pistols that Ruger has put out in recent years, I haven't been as excited about. The Security 9 is probably one of the better options I've seen them put out as of late. I think it would not be the worst option. It would not be like the top tier best option, but definitely that would be preferable over a Keltec, a Car, a Sky pistol, SCCY, any of those kind of off brands, not to a high quality standard. A Taurus too. We got a if you have my best recommendation would be if you have a local gun range, or if you have some kind of indoor range or some place where they've got like 40 to 60 pistols for you to rent, I would strenuously encourage taking her out there and let her just kind of, rent out. Like at our range, we have an unlimited pistol thing. So we send you out with 2 pistols at a time. When you're done with those, bring them back. We'll get you 2 more, and you can just continue to trade out pistols. If you have a range where you can do that and really play the field of the different types and kinds of pistols out there, I would strenuously encourage that you go with her and let her just kind of see how she thinks about it. Save each target. I would also recommend, I did that with Miss Texas last year or the beginning of this year. It's a video not too long ago on my channel. It's called A Woman's Perspective, where we shot like 14 different handguns in one day. We saved the targets, and then Miss Texas and I kind of sat down. We talked about each gun. We did everything from full size 45-9 Smith & Wesson J8 Special. Some of the guns I thought she was going to like, she didn't like. Some of the guns I didn't think she was going to be too hot on, she actually really liked. So having her go out there and you guys kind of figure out what she wants, or at least what she's hitting the best with, what she's most comfortable with, that she can rack the slide, that it feels good under recoil. If you really want her getting out there to train with it and shoot with it, you really want to direct that purchase in terms of her knowing what she's getting into, helping hand select the gun that is going to be best for her. And I know that's kind of unfair to say that because gun inventory, ammo availability, it's all horrible right now. But if you have the ability to do that, I would strenuously recommend that first and foremost, because, maybe she lands on a Glock 43. Maybe she wants a little more grip, so she goes for a Glock 43X. It depends, whatever, just to go check it all out. Thank you again. And you are welcome. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Just going to wrap it up here. I'm going to do, I think I actually have I could do about 10 more minutes. If you guys have any final questions, I guess I'll also bring this down. This is the mil spec 1911, again, back from Cerakote. Don't have the Surefire rail on it. This gun, it's one of my favorites, had it since forever. Definitely do not recommend a 1911 or 45 to anyone, especially as the first handgun, but it's one of my favorites to shoot when ammo is available. Let's see. I typically don't do any shooting on Thanksgiving. In civilian life here, we're going to be closed on Thanksgiving, and we're just kind of doing our own Thanksgiving thing. Don't really have any plans to go out there and go shooting. I think it would be different if I had my own property for acres. I could set up my own gun range. Yeah, I probably would, take my guests hey, let's go out back just outside. And, I've got some stuff set up. We can just shoot. I have a bunch of steel targets set up. Unfortunately, at this point in my life, I don't have that kind of setup where I've got my own land and property, got my own range built up there, and I'm able to just shoot and do my own thing. So it would involve going to work or going to an outdoor shooting location. And that's just not in the cards for this Thanksgiving. But maybe years down the road, there might be a Thanksgiving where, I actually have the opportunity to just go out and shoot. It'd be cool. All right, we're gonna finish up with any final questions that you guys have. Let me ask you guys a question. What do you guys think is your favorite video that you've seen, either recently or over the years, on my channel, or it could be someone else's channel? That's kind of curious. I'd like to know. Yeah, dude. We'll see you later, Lancaster. I guess you wouldn't be on staff duty, but I'm sure you're chilling watching this from somewhere. So yeah, dude. Enjoy the Army life. Hopefully it's fun and it's awesome. As awesome as it can be. So yeah. Let me make sure. Thanks, dude. Yeah, the AR-15 explained. And I did actually, that video is a little dated, probably needs a re-up, and it was from years ago of just explaining what is the AR-15. I have a lot more historical and technical information and personal experience with the AR-15, whether it was the military AR-15 or the civilian ones that we have. You know, I have a lot more to bring to the table for that kind of video. One that wasn't really worried about it, but I figured it could be controversial, was one of the almanacs I did, and I think I called it Honesty and the AR-15, where I talked about what the deal is and just being very forthright about how I feel about the AR-15 mechanically, what it is, comparing it to the U.S. military M4 and M16, Mark 12, Mark 18, versus what we have on the civilian side, and how they're all not that different very much at all, especially in usage. Military, you know, training, everything was always semi-auto, and that's really where you want to be if you want to be effective. On the civilian side, you mechanically can only do semi-auto, and from a usability standpoint with the military AR-15s versus what the civilians have to use and only use anyway, pretty much absolutely no difference. And I figured I'd probably get some flack from some pro-Second Amendment people that almost kind of want to keep the cat from coming out of the bag and trying to be a little shifty or a little shady about, oh, it's just a 22 rifle. It looks scary, but this one's not a machine gun. It's not at all what the military has. Absolutely false. So, you know, I think honesty is the best policy when it comes to that. So that was kind of a fun one to do. Go play with the big boys. That's cool. What school you at, dude? Oh, it's Doc Wynn. What's up? How do I feel about military going to the new rifles that shoot the 6.8? Well, so we're talking about the current M4 carbine or you know, modern rifle replacement system. The U.S. Army specifically has a really bad history throughout the last 2 decades of running these programs to try to replace the M4 or modernize it, or hey, maybe we'll do a new caliber, maybe we want kind of a modernized design. They'll put it out there. The private sector will show up with their offerings to compete. The contract will go on for a couple years, and then it gets disbanded, canceled, it goes nowhere. The contract, or at least the solicitation process, the program they're doing now, probably of any time in the last 2 decades, this one looks like it has the most chance of success of actually not getting canceled and actually going through with it. I'm totally down. If they have a 6.8 caliber, you have like Textron, General Dynamics, and Sig Sauer are still the top 3 that are still in the running. I really hope the Sig Sauer product wins. Internally, it's basically an AR-18 design. It's another Eugene Stoner design that's awesome. Very similar to an M4 carbine. So in terms of training, not a whole lot would have to change. I was looking at the one, I think it's from Textron, where it has like it looks like internally it's this mechanical absolute mess of it's just a shit show of mechanical parts and things and self-contained expendable ammunition where the casing doesn't even have it and stuff. And all I can think about is just getting shit on by rain and dust and mud. And this thing, now granted, in fairness, I haven't got my hands on it. I haven't seen it myself, but trying to modernize the M4, trying to increase the lethality of our standard issue cartridge, and doing that in a way that is going to be dependable, reliable. It's not going to be this crazy brand new leap of faith into a technology that hasn't even been proven yet for sure in the field or in combat, and doing it with a manufacturer that can pump out those units and not deviating too far. Like if I handed 6 hours, it's basically their MCX in tan with a couple things the Army wanted on it in this composite 6.8 caliber, still uses brass with like a steel base kind of thing, supposed to be lighter weight. If you handed that to a standard platoon of infantry dudes, within a couple hours, you're going to be good to go. Here's how we take it apart. This is how we got to clean it. This is how it works. Oh, hey, it's just like an M4. Cool. Ammunition, it's not this crazy, Alien versus Predator, like Starship Troopers kind of thing. It's like, hey, these are your rounds. They look the same pretty much. They function better. So I do hope the 6 hour product wins if, again, we actually see the completion of this program. And I would honestly, at this point, not be surprised if the program just gets scrapped again. Let's see. Last video, more run and gun gear. Thanks, dude. Yeah, so the run and guns are something you guys may not see soon because of the weather out here, the outdoor location. So if you guys look back to my old run and gun videos, let's say the M44 Mosin run and gun, that was actually it was an exhausting video to do because I literally set up like a 1.5 mile course that I had to run and then shoot this thing, like the miniature version of the garbage rod on these targets I set up. That whole hillside here in Utah is completely closed to shooting. And that happened years ago because of all the fires, people leaving all the trash and dumping out there. So in some cases, that's not as possible anymore. But in other cases out here, the weather is starting to turn. So it's not going to be as trafficable. But I would like to do a run and gun. It'd be kind of cool. The Mossberg Mayhem with the 590A1, the sidearm being an 1851 cap and ball Colt Navy. Those are like old school Mr. Second Amendment videos that I wish the land and the real estate was more available to do that with. But we'll see. We'll see where we go. Harris wants to compare muzzle loaders to semi-automatic, one pull, one bullet. Let's see. Harris, which Harris are we talking about? That's my question to you. Let's see. Muzzle loaders to semi-automatics, one pull to one bullet. Well, that's like two different things. Obviously, a muzzle loader, we're using black powder. We're cramming powder patch and ball down this thing. We're either priming the frizzen or using a percussion cap. And yeah, I see Doc Wynn coming in with that. Yeah, so my best buddy from the Army, who I roomed with, we had a house on base together, single soldier roommate program. That's his last name. So I'm like, oh, what's going on? Do you know him? What's up? Not that you're not my best buddy, Lancaster or Doc. You guys are also my best buddies, but that was kind of an interesting question. Let's see. Okay, so that means I need to do some research and see what Kamala Harris said regarding muzzle loaders and semi-automatics. By and large, and you don't need me to tell you guys this, but over the years we've seen politicians, especially anti-gun politicians, trying to go after guns, but then when they're actually given, I guess these days it would be considered a tough interview, but a real interview by a real journalist who is going to dig deep and ask real questions, like, hey, what's a barrel shroud? Oh, I think it's the shoulder thing that goes up. No. Or like, oh, magazines, like, well, once they shoot them, they're done. They can't use them again. So a lot of people who want to ban the guns are not the same people who know about the guns. And I've put that in an almanac in the past of like, what you'd really need to do an effective or at least legally competent assault weapons ban is you would need to bring on dudes like me who know stuff about guns. But the problem is me and those of us who know stuff mechanically about guns are never going to help them at all. So we're left with these laws that ban to do what they're supposed to, intended to do. So if Kamala Harris is going out there talking about muzzle loaders, and it's probably a mess, but I'm going to have to do some homework on that. Let's see. Let's see. Anti-gunners make those comparisons, that what their intentions are. Yeah, they have intentions, but again, they also lack the mechanical understanding of what it is they're trying to ban. So, man, they definitely need to do some cursory research. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I think you guys know how I feel. What's your view on counterinsurgency? We're talking about like coin operations overseas. Like, we're trying to work with the Afghan army to stabilize and pacify, keep things running smooth in this village or this, area, this province. And then we have, Taliban or Haqqani network or Doc when you and I were over there with Lancaster, ISIS KP, Eastern Afghan, ISIS franchise out there. You've got these actors that are civilian by day, insurgency fighter by night. Classic historic example, the Mujahideen against the Soviets in Afghanistan. Of course, we have not even really the NVA. Well, sometimes, yeah, but also the Viet Cong. Some of that stuff going on back in Vietnam. Counterinsurgency is a very tough thing to fight. Historically, no matter what, at least if you're a first war, or if you're like a organized army as a nation trying to work with a counterinsurgency, that is a very difficult thing to work with. I'm not going to say it's unwinnable, but it's as close to unwinnable as you can get, historically speaking. Whether we can look at ancient examples, even Alexander the Great going through Afghanistan, it's been a mess. To modern examples like Vietnam, stuff like that. So counterinsurgency operations are tough because, like us in Afghanistan or Iraq, where we follow the Geneva Convention, we follow our own rules of engagement, escalation of force. There are certain things we will or will not do. It also makes it difficult when we publish on a calendar for the whole world to see, hey, we are going to withdraw and totally not care anymore on this day. Kind of, given the answer sheet to any, evil or bad actors out there trying to take advantage of that, destabilization operation. So it's a very difficult thing to fight, as you know. Let's see. Biden said double barrel shotgun, the right one buckshot, 2 poles, and more than 30 round mag. Yeah, again, going back to what I've said previously, I am not a professional baseball player, so I have absolutely no business. I've never even played baseball at Little League or anything, so I have absolutely no business rolling into the Dodgers or rolling into the Boston Red Sox and be like, oh yeah, man, this is how you're going to win the baseball game. This is the strategy you should employ. This is like how you should be throwing your pitches. This is how what business do I have telling anybody anything on how to be allegedly successful in baseball? I have no room to stand on, so I'm just going to shut up and not give advice on things that are well outside my lane. So getting in defense of the home in a lethal encounter with unknown attackers in your home, utilizing weapons or being in that kind of situation, a lethal force, self-defensive kind of situation, I don't see Joe Biden really having any street cred to be able to give people effective advice on what strategy they should employ, what type of gun they should use, how they should, what their tactics or what their individual choices should be in that kind of moment. He's not a professional, now if someone like Larry Vickers or the dude from Ronin Tactics or Travis Haley or Garantham wants to tell me, hey man, this is the kind of gun you're going to want. This is the stuff you should care about. These are the things we should be focused on. These are the things we should care about if we're dealing with a gunfight or a self-defense in the home encounter. Then I'm going to listen. I'll be like, okay, these guys, I'm going to listen to what they have to say. So Biden or any other politician saying all you need is a shotgun and go ahead and discharge it in the air, which most places that's a crime. Not to mention what comes up must come down somewhere. And then, excuse me, technical difficulties. Bottom line, I think you guys get the point. I think it's all garbage. Someone who says that has obviously never been in a shit show, never even trained professionally, conducted training with different types and kinds of guns in different kinds of situations, force on force, none of that. So whatever Joe Biden had to say or has to say about what kind of gun that I need to defend the most important thing to me, which is my family, dude, like I have no time for that. I don't care. Like that's well outside his lane. Let's see. I heard your medic outshot you at the range. When did that happen, Doc? When did that happen? Remind me, when did that happen? Counterinsurgency is essentially what the Green Berets are experts at. Yes, so they are the only portion officially of the U.S. military where their task and purpose, their mission set is designated to specialize and handle unconventional warfare. So, if you're going to have some like Apocalypse Now, Colonel Kurtz kind of stuff where it's like, hey, we're going to send in a team. They speak the language or can quickly learn how to speak and work with the language. They're going to take this maybe village of, Afghanis that have problems with the Taliban and they don't like the Taliban, but they definitely will have the weapons or at least some weapons, but they don't have all the skills and training needed to really be a viable fighting force to combat something like the Taliban, who's trying to roll up in their valley, roll up in their village and say what's what. The team goes in and lives with them. It's not like, hey, we're going to be here for a couple hours and goodbye. Like they're going to live for months with them, shaping them up to be a fighting force, learning their values, learning their language, learning how they do things, teaching them, actively taking them out on missions, going into combat with them, supporting them with the resources the United States has between air power, skills, training, equipment, and kind of there for the longevity, the long haul kind of thing. Lots of that was going on and possibly still going on in South America and other parts of the world. But that's what the Green Berets do, is to basically out insurgent the insurgent is essentially what their job is to do. Good. Never served in the military. Thank you all for your service. Seriously, you wouldn't want the broadcast or daily operations for the whole world. From Raggedy Man, welcome. Let's see. Sorry, I just meant they don't know what they're talking about per guns. Yeah. Rona. Yeah, no Rona. I swallowed half of my pinch. So for those who don't chew tobacco or dip, I wouldn't get started. For those who do, you know what I'm talking about. If you inhale and you take in a little bit of, in this case, almost half the pinch. So just starting out dipping years ago, that would have been vomit and awful situation. Best thing I can advise is don't get started. Bad habit. You could outshoot me every damn time. Well, Doc, when you escape California and you can own guns again, we should go to the range. Let's see. Gonna check this real quick. Got some changes going on. See if there's any changes in terms of the meeting tonight. Looks like we're still on schedule. Okay, for the last time, I'll say it now. 10 more minutes. I'm having such a good time that you know, and you guys are all asking questions. Good chat going on. So let's see. 10 minutes from now is when I'll have to end it, and then you know, we'll be doing another one of these every Wednesday night. Yeah, so Doc Wynn was no slouch on the range, but out shooting me, I would have remembered it. I would have remembered it, unless you can. Let's be as specific as we can be, because I think I would have remembered that. Yeah, so Huey Wynn, he was our Afghan platoon medic, and got out a couple years before I did. But yeah, that's my Afghan medic, Doc Wynn. Oh yeah, that's exactly what you would say. Also, one of the most sarcastic human beings I know, and I love him for it. Doc Wynn, you're the kind of guy that's like, we have to wake up at 3. You're surprised we have to do this. And you're like, fine, but I'm going to complain about it the whole time. Absolutely. I think you would own that. But thank you guys for thanking us for our service. Honestly, I'm going to tell you something honest, because I love you guys, and I don't want to sound ungrateful. For the vast majority of service members, when we hear like, thank you for your service, it's almost like when someone, you know, a whole party is singing you like happy birthday while they're singing the song, like you don't know what to do with yourself. You're like, oh shit. The best response I usually say is, you know, thank you for your support, because I think of Vietnam veterans that came back and would throw their uniform out in the airport so they could just, you know, get into civilian clothes as quick as possible and make it look like they were not ever in the military ever. And that was them coming home from, you know, depending on who they were and where they served, could have gone through a lot of shit, been involved in some heavy stuff, just to come home and largely be hated, or at least, you know, by a lot of people at that time. So I am grateful that the time that Doc and Lancaster and me and others have served or still serve, I'm grateful that we have an American populace that, you know, supports us and loves us. And, you know, I would always tell my soldiers that, you know, if you go uptown and you're in uniform because you're on staff duty, but you have to grab some real quick off base, and someone says, thank you for your service, like the civilians don't know, like you are the representation to them of what's kind of holding the line between the next 9/11, or between the people over there that would love to do another 9/11 or do something awful. So you are the physical representation local to them that they see, that's protecting them. So you've lost the right to be fat. You've lost the right to not have a clean shaven face, or your uniform looks like shit, your boots are all fucked up. Like you've lost the right to be fucked up if you're ever going to be in front of civilians in uniform, because you look at it as every day they're looking at you in a different way that you may or may not even deserve. And that's another thing. I mean, every element of civilian life, right? We have really outstanding people. We have spiritual or religious people. We have criminals. We have shady people, flaky people, really good people. Every element of society that you guys know of and have seen that we have in civilian life pretty much have that in the military as well. Not everybody in uniform is necessarily going to be upstanding. Not everything's going to be okay. And there's a lot of people who take it personally, who want to not just appear to be professional and upstanding, but live that kind of life and encourage, and develop others to kind of see that and guide them towards the light to uphold that level of support that we get from civilians that they give us. So it's kind of a give and take relationship. So, I think about every time I hear thank you for your service inside, I'm thinking about dudes in our brigade, that one dude, and just committing crimes, horrible things going on, getting rolled up at the police station on a Friday night, horrible examples of people who were not deserving of that. And I'm also taken back to the Vietnam guys. I'm just grateful we have a civilian populace that does it. But at the end of the day, I don't see us as special. I don't see us as victims or whatever the case. I see us as we volunteered to do the job. We did the job, or some of those are still doing the job, doing the best we can. But, it's not like we're Superman. We come from America's towns and cities and schools and counties and whatever. We come from America. We are essentially you. Like, it's not like we're, Zeus up in the sky or something. Like, so I guess all of that to say, thank you for your support. Yeah, Marines definitely have the best dress uniform, although I'd say the Army, going back to the old school World War II, pinks and greens, kind of, that's a whole different thing. But all right, guys, I'm going to have to go. Got some things I got to do. Help Miss Texas down there, work on Thanksgiving dinner, get this thing taken care of. Doing some of the prep work, and then I got to leave to go for a meeting for work. So lots of moving pieces here. I'm going to have to go, but always going to be here unless something crazy happens or I'm physically working. Wednesday nights, 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time is when you can see that I'm going to show up. Well, thanks, Ron Yeater. Appreciate it. It's just most, honestly, the last note I'll leave you with is Afghan and Iraq. And at least I'm thinking about my deployments, and there's a lot of, I think, from the movies or video games and whatever, especially the movies, people think it's just 100% every day, all day gunfights, explosions, crazy shit. The reality is the vast majority of it, you're doing stupid, dumb stuff, cleaning and rearranging and laying out your vehicle, checking commo, tower guard where nothing happens. There's a lot of really repetitive, mundane, not as sexy stuff going on, interdispersed with these fleeting moments of holy shit, this is happening right now. So that's, I don't know, you're definitely special, Doc. You are special. Okay, well, I will see you guys again next week. I'm going to try to polish up the fighting rifle video that I'm going to put out and see if you guys like that. But at the end of the day, thank you guys for being here. And stay tuned for more. So you guys have a happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for being here. Have a safe and happy Thanksgiving. And I'll see you guys next week. All right. Take care.